My name is Michele Guy and I'm a social worker with over 10 years experience working in the domestic and family violence sector, working mostly with victims of domestic violence and their children.
And I'm Lachlan Cramb. I work here in the criminal law department and family law, and I work regularly with domestic violence breaches as well as lodging applications for the victims.
Normally people do associate with domestic violence is the physical and the sexual abuse, but there are other forms of abuse which what we call coercive control. That can be religious abuse, financial abuse, verbal, emotional, psychological abuse, and also abuse through media, through phones, computers. That can be stalking and stalking on media as well as stalking physically, isolating the victims, using children as a weapon as well. Perpetrators of domestic violence use verbal and emotional and psychological, so a lot of that is that gaslighting, making the victim think that they're actually crazy, belittling them, name calling, that makes them feel really bad about themselves, so then it's easier for them to take control of their victim. It would be advised for them to get some advice, either legal advice, or at least tell family and friends what's going on. DV Connect and 1-800-RESPECT. We also ask them to get some legal advice.
And the legal advice can range in a number of different avenues, but one is the victims can make an application themselves, whether or not they go to the police. There are online forms that you can fill out as well as attending the courthouse to be able to complete those. You can definitely assist with that. Through any of those avenues, you can get some protection orders put in place.
That can be very difficult when you've got both under one roof. Safety is our paramount concern there. Making sure that there's a safety plan in place, and for a lot of victims, their domestic order, protection order is part of the safety plan, but we don't say it will keep them safe. It is part of their safety plan, so it's important that they seek some kind of support around how to keep safe within the home.
So from a legal perspective, it can be quite hard because there's varying different levels of orders. For the standard type order that is generally in place, it's not a breach of DVO automatically to be living under the same roof or having any contact with the person. You may find it does unfortunately breed a bit of a risk scenario for someone who does have a protection order in place against them, that they could easily find themselves in breach of that order, which then brings criminal charges against them. By part and parcel, the victim isn't forced to move out of the property, so there is some definite issues that can come into play.
Some of those can be around the victim's financial status, because obviously a lot of the perpetrators are the ones that are the primary wage earner. That's part of their power and control tactics as well. So that makes it difficult then for a victim to leave. And then we also know by research and evidence that the victim is more at risk once they leave. Yes, it makes it really, really difficult.
Would you suggest that parties that get orders made do end up finding alternate accommodation?
There are shelters that victims can go to, or family, if they do have family that they can go to, but then that's also sometimes a risk, because if the perpetrator knows where the family lives, that can then put the whole family at risk, and that's something that we need to consider as well with them.
To breach a domestic violence order, it really depends on what's in the actual order itself, because they determine what contact are not allowed to go to the victims, place of residence or another residence nominated. So it really depends on what the orders say and what conduct that they do which results in that breach.
I believe it's written in there around not being able to have contact without written permission of the aggrieved. A lot of breaches come in as well because they don't understand that it has to be about the children and children only. So we get a lot of perpetrators that use that, and they will start to talk about the children, but then often they'll come into putting mum down, belittling mum, wanting mum to do things like drop an order or do certain things, and then they're breaching that order. Whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, it's a breach.
So when there is a breach, it goes from a civil jurisdiction, which is your domestic violence orders, making those, to a criminal offence. There are different domestic violence orders. They range in severity and a range in protection.
Seeking help, anybody that you trust, and making a safety plan and really getting a lot of your information, like family law information, and get all your information to make an informed decision around leaving or staying.
I think it's really important that both victims and perpetrators seek legal advice. There's so many ramifications out there for domestic violence orders. For perpetrators, they need to know what that entails to cause a breach and how to prevent that. Same with victims, it's a good idea to seek legal advice to see if it's the best way of moving forward, because there may be other things at play. There might be family law proceedings on foot at that time, what that has as an effect on those proceedings, especially if kids are involved, things of that nature. So it's very important that you do seek legal advice. It would end up costing you a little bit of money. That little bit of money can save you a lot of heartache going forward. Really, it's about trying to protect everyone to the best of the law. And there's also some new grants announced for people trying to leave a domestic violence situation, really trying to give assistance out. Again, we've touched on it about financial and domestic violence. If there is that happening, there are avenues out there to help people leave those sort of situations and get a new start in life. So please definitely do search those and have a chat to see what the best way moving forward is. We do offer a free 30-minute consultation, so I'll suggest if you do have any questions or any concerns, definitely do give us a ring and have a chat to either myself or some of the other staff here, and we'd be happy to assist.